Good morning, happy Summerween. Today we are going out kayaking. It's supposed to be a really warm day, a little bit cloudy, which I feel like might be nice because then I won't be baking in the sun. But I'm also a little bit sad because I did want to soak up some sun and work on my tan a little bit. Anyways, I am hoping to bring my book and get some reading done on the water. I did start this pre-Summerween, so don't kill me, but it is For Human Use by Sarah G. Pierce. I'm only about 50 pages in, so I don't have many thoughts right now. I'm not sure how this is gonna go. I feel like it could possibly be a DNF. I knew before going into this that it was gonna be weird and gross, and I like weird and gross, but this is just not like hitting in the way that I want it to. There was a scene in the last chapter that I read, and I was just like, I just don't want to be reading this. Like, this is just making me feel unwell. And I don't know how the rest of the book is going to be. This is about a dating app, but you are swiping on corpses, and I guess it's supposed to be satirical and funny and about how like people would literally rather be with a corpse than have to interact with the living humans around them. I just don't know if I like what's going on and some of the discussions that are happening. There's a lot of discussions about consent that, like I said, just don't make me feel good at all. I think it will do interesting things because, like, obviously this is an absurd idea, and one of the characters that we're following is like, you guys are insane, this is an absurd idea, but everybody's really in it because they think it's going to be like this big money-making thing, and that's like really all they care about. They don't care about like the ethics of the entire idea. Instead they are focused on like the legality of it and when necrophilia becomes considered necrophilia, and it's just, there have just been some weird conversations that I'm not enjoying reading. So I'm going to try to read this more today and then hopefully come up with a solid decision on whether or not I will be continuing this one. But first, before we hit the lake, we are going to the farmer's market. That's why I'm wearing a cute little dress, because I'm not kayaking in this. So I will give you guys a farmer's market haul and then we'll go to the lake and read. So I told you guys I would do a farmer's market haul. So this is the one thing that I went knowing that I wanted to get, was a little dish scrubby, because I have another handmade one and it's like the only thing that will take out tea stains and like coffee stains I have found, so I needed another one of those. We got some nice farm fresh eggs. Then we also got some lettuce for our sandwiches and some cat grass, which I will insert a clip of because the cats are already in love with it. And then we went to our favorite little indie cafe and I got my matcha, of course, because how can I go a Saturday without a matcha? It's a little windy, so I don't know if you can hear me, but we did make it to the lake. My boyfriend's fishing. I'm going to read my book. This is definitely one of the things that I like about living in Minnesota, is that there's lakes everywhere. Like, this one is literally 10 minutes from where we live, and we're pretty much by ourselves in this one little section, which is great. First, let me apologize if there's any background noise, but I'm here to let you know that I'm not going to finish this book. I read a little bit while we were kayaking, but then it got like very windy where I was like struggling to turn the pages, and then I got worried because it's so windy and then we're so close to water, so I just put the book away. But then last night I did try to read a little bit more of it and I got a couple more chapters through it, but I just really like didn't care, to be quite honest. I just think I got to page 93 and then decided, you know what, I'm just gonna stop because like I'm reading this and I'm reading the words, but I'm not really caring about what the words are saying. I just don't think it's the most interesting angle. I mean, yes, there were some parts that were like uncomfortable to read, and that's kind of part of the reason why, but not fully, because there hasn't been a scene since the one that I told you about that has made me feel just like icky, but I'm sure there will be more later on. We are following, like, it's not really about the app and like the whole concept of that. It's more so about like the startup of it and the tech and the financing for it and all of the biometrics and how much money and how much users it has, and like it's just, I feel like it's not that interesting to me, and that's not what I was looking for going into this. And then there's also like weird romance happening. Like the dude who created the app, first of all, I think his ex-girlfriend is his stepsister, and also he's creating a dating app for corpses, so he's just a weird dude. But like two of the male characters are into the same lady, and then I don't know, it's just like not really something that I care about, so I'm just gonna put it down because like I could read it. It has been a very quick read. That is one pro that I will say about it, is that it goes by very fast. I just feel like I would rather devote my time to something that I'm actually going to enjoy. So here goes, officially taking the bookmark out, and I will be returning this to the library. So very sad. If you have read this though, let me know down below what you thought of it. I'm also very curious, like if anybody has read this, please send me a message and give me the full spoilers as to what happens later in the book and like where the story goes, because I'm kind of curious, but I'm not curious enough to keep reading it, I guess, because I just don't care. So not the best start to Summerween, but I have high hopes for the next book. I don't know what the next book is going to be just yet. I don't know what I feel like starting next, but I will come back and let you guys know once I figure it out, and hopefully it's going a lot better than this was. I wish I could come back and give you guys good news and say that I'm absolutely loving this book, but unfortunately I'm DNFing this one also. So sad, I know. I am on page 71, chapter 13. That is where I am stopping. I started this yesterday, and as I was reading, I found my mind to be wandering quite a bit, where I would just start thinking about something completely different, and I'd have to go back and reread paragraphs that I had just read. So I thought I would just put it down for the night. I figured I was just tired, not in the mood to read, and I decided to just relax before I went to bed. So I picked it up today with a fresh attitude, with a new mood to read, and the same thing happened where my mind just like was wandering and I could not focus on this, and I think it's because I simply was just bored. I also knew from the very start that like I was a little bit unsure about the writing style. It is written very like overly descriptive of certain things, and like not in a good way. I love me some good lush descriptions sometimes, but this is like too much and I just can't focus on what's happening. So I decided to look at some reviews to see if I could be convinced to continue in this, and I saw a lot of people DNFing it, and I also saw a lot of people saying that the first few chapters are the best part of the book and it really drops off after that. And so I figured, you know what, if I'm already bored in the first few chapters that are supposed to be the best in the whole book, then I don't think I'm going to have a great time reading this. To give you a little bit briefly synopsis of what it's about, the book starts off with a chapter from 2001, which is a flashback to Josie's childhood, and it's kind of a interesting look at her upbringing and her relationship with her father. And then next we go to the present day in 2024, and she is walking home, I believe, one day through this like path on through the trees, and she finds a body which she thinks is like a dummy. At first she thinks it's kind of like a mannequin, even though like in the back of her head she knows that's not true. She's just kind of like wants to believe it. She does discover it's a body that is in horrific state of decomposition. definitely has been dead for a while. There are maggots and there are ants everywhere eating this body, and she kind of has a freak out and a panic attack because of that, and she actually ends up getting bitten by all of these ants and spending some time in the hospital for her mental breakdown. But after she comes out, her dad moves in with her just temporarily because there's kind of a lot going on, and that's about the point that I stopped. I just didn't really, I don't know, didn't really like the way that it was written, and again, I just found my mind wandering. I was a little bit bored, so I'm really sad because that's 2 DNFs to start off Summerween. 2 gorgeous pink covers that I cannot say I've read. Anyways, after I put that one down officially, I switched over to The Heart Taker on my Kindle, which I did read a little bit outside just now, which is why I kind of look a little crazy. I'm about to go shower. But this one it was very quick to get into. This is a young adult horror book, so I feel like it's a lot easier to read and it just flows a lot better. I got 32% of the way through, which is page 89 out of about 250 pages. This is about, I'm gonna put this down, but I think this cover is so cool. I didn't notice it until like right before I filmed this clip that like this little thing down here is like a claw, because she's like, there's something secret about her. Anyways, we are following these high schoolers. The main character that we're following is named Jack, and he writes for the school newspaper, and he writes a gossip column, and so he's like reporting about the breakups and the scandals, and he definitely has a very kind of misogynistic take some of the times. However, he's definitely like talented at writing and reporting. I guess there was, when he was 12 years old, he kind of like helped to solve this like local murder and wrote a little report about it for the paper. So he definitely has like the passion and the knowledge. He's just writing like shitty stuff in high school. There's a lot of tension and like arguments about that, obviously, with some of the things he's reporting on. He's making a lot of the popular kids in the school very upset, and a lot of the faculty are on the side of the popular kids because they're like super rich, and you know, that kind of whole vibe is what's happening right now. But they get a new girl at the school. Her name is Delilah. We also know from the prologue that 4 teenage boys from their neighboring town's high school were found like brutally murdered. So now Jack believes that there is something strange going on. He thinks that this new girl and some of the other kids at the school are caught up in something dark, and they maybe know something about what happened to these boys. And he is in his little investigative journalism mode, and he is digging into that and trying to uncover secrets and figure out what's going on. I believe that, I can't remember the synopsis, but I'm pretty sure this is like about, I don't know if she's a succubus or just like a female demon, but I know there is something supernatural going on, so I'm really excited. It's definitely picking up at the point that I'm at now, where he's really starting to dig into things and it's getting a little bit dangerous, so I will be very excited to pick that one back up. That is my update for now, so I will see you guys once I'm a bit further into The Heart Taker, and I'll let you know if I have any further thoughts to share. It's good, it's interesting, it's fast-paced, and so I'm very compelled to read it. I don't know if in the end it'll be something that like I absolutely love, because again, it is young adult horror, so I'm not technically the audience for it, but like I'm happy to be reading it right now. I'm happy to be reading something that I'm enjoying, so that's where I'm at. So I just got off of work and I was literally baking in the sun the whole drive home. So I was like, I'm dying to go outside. I'm gonna sit outside, I'm gonna read my book, I'm gonna soak up some sun. And now I come out and the cloud has covered the sun. Of course. In case anyone is wondering, the crisis was averted because the sun did come out. I also can't see what I'm filming with these sunglasses on, so hopefully I don't look ridiculous. Okay, bye. Hello, it is the next day. I actually ended up finishing my book, The Heart Taker, last night, and I thought about doing an update before I finished it because I like to do that. I don't like to just finish a book and then come back and tell you everything. But it was late. I was in my PJs. I had my bonnet on, okay? And I was like, no, I'm just gonna read this and I'll tell everybody about it tomorrow. So here I am. This was a super quick read, super fast paced. The writing was very straightforward and very easy to follow. So I feel like that's what kept me coming back and like flipping the pages and kept my interest and kept me engaged throughout the whole book, which was really, really nice. I feel like that's just what I needed after not enjoying those two other books and DNFing both of them. Also, I feel like it really fit like the vibe that I like for Summerween, where it's like it's just horror and I can just get through it pretty quickly and I'm interested the whole time. I think this is going to be either a 3 or a 3.5 star. It is young adult horror, so I am not the target audience, and because of that, there were also times where it was predictable. Like, I don't think it did anything really unexpected when you're going into a young adult horror and like this specific type of horror. I feel like they oftentimes follow a formula, and this one kind of did the same thing. However, there was one reveal. So obviously, like, they have this succubus demon that is infiltrating their school and like trying to kill these people, and they basically learn that they have to find the person that summoned the demon in the first place in order to stop the demon. So they are pretty sure that they know who the summoner is based off of their investigation and all the evidence that they have, and I was right alongside with them. I was like, yeah, absolutely, it's this person. And then at the end, when it got revealed that it was somebody else, it caught me off guard because I was not expecting that at all. I think that the ending really brought it together and wrapped it up nicely. I did enjoy that. I do feel like, though, the characters could have had a little bit more depth to them. I think Jack was a pretty stereotypical high school boy, exactly what you would expect to be reading from his perspective. He had a little bit of depth because he does have his parents are separated, not officially divorced. His mother left his dad, and his dad has been very depressed ever since, and Jack has kind of become like a caretaker. He gets dinner ready for them each night. His dad kind of just like lives on a recliner in the living room because he's very upset, and he's still holding out hope that like the mother's gonna come back and they're gonna rekindle their love. That's the love of his life, and he doesn't want to accept this. And so Jack will, you know, make sure that the TV's turned off after he falls asleep and covers him up and gets his dinner and everything for him. But his mother also is regularly calling to check in, and Jack is very upset with her for leaving, and he won't give the phone to his father and just like tells his mother like, oh, he's doing great. We don't need you. He's fine. He's hiking and he's eating healthy and he's just so happy. He's gonna file for divorce. We don't need you anymore. So there's a little bit of depth to his character, I feel like, with that. I do wish we got to explore that side of things a little bit more and focus more on his parental relationships, but I don't think that was really the intention of the book. I think it was really just wanted to be this fast-paced, kind of bloody young adult horror, and that's exactly what it was. I would be curious to read from this author again. I think that he has like some weird sci-fi books out, so maybe that would be something that I connect with a little bit more. But overall, this one was enjoyable, nothing special, but I had a fun time reading it. With all that being said, I'm going to move on to the next book, which is Beta Vulgaris. Hopefully I really enjoy this one. Like I said, I've seen people say that it's not really horror, it's more literary. I saw somebody say that it's kind of like speculative, and that sounds like exactly what I need, because I also feel like reading that other book, The Heart Taker, it kind of made me realize, like, I feel like I've known this recently, but I think my tastes definitely have been changing, and I think right now I'm definitely leaning towards more literary, thought-provoking things. And, you know, a good fast-paced book is fun every now and then, but I think majority of what I want to be gravitating towards is something literary. So hopefully this can deliver on that end. I will let you guys know when I have an update on this. Hopefully I don't forget to update you and put my bonnet on again, and then I don't want to come back. we'll see. So I'm only 66 pages into Beta Vulgaris. Hopefully that's how you pronounce it. That's just how I've been saying it. But I'm about to put my bonnet on, so that's why I wanted to do my update now. This is going really, really well. I am really enjoying it, and it had me hooked right from the beginning. Elise is the main character that we're following, and I find her to be so relatable, and I feel like that's what easily pulled me into the book. It's funny because I actually saw a review that somebody said that the main character was insufferable, and here I am, like, finding her very relatable. So I don't know what that says about me, but you know, it's still early. Things could change. Maybe she becomes insufferable later on. But the book starts off with her saying she would not tell Tom that the room was $20 more than the price advertised on the highway billboard. $59 was about 1/3 of Elise's bank balance. She'd have $135 left, but $25 needed to go to her credit card payment, so she wasn't counting that in her total. And that has definitely been a theme where she's like, I just feel like anybody who's ever truly worked paycheck to paycheck, or like truly been broke, can relate to that. She's just like constantly calculating how much money is in her bank. And then also, you know, okay, if I buy this right now, that leaves this much money in my account. I have this many days till I get paid. What can happen between now and then that I have to account for? And like just being scared to check your bank account, hoping that the number that you're calculating in your head is the correct number. And I just feel like I myself can relate to that, and I'm sure a lot of other people could. And there have just been like other random things that she said, not said, but thought, that I literally feels like at points I'm like, have you been inside of my brain? Because that's kind of weird. She does have, there's definitely some disordered eating going on and like calorie counting that I don't relate to, but I find Elise to be a very interesting character at the moment. And I'm really interested in the plot of the book as well. Okay, it's not just the characters, but Elise and her boyfriend Tom, they live in an apartment together in Brooklyn, and they both work at a grocery store, and they decide to take a month off to go to Minnesota and work at like this beet farm, sugar beet harvest. I don't fully understand everything that they're doing, but they're doing that for a month, and it's just kind of like, you know, this company opens it up and people from wherever, adventurous types, will come to work there for the month. Like there's a couple that are there with them that they're saying it's their third time they've been there. Tom and Elise, it is their first time. They don't really know what to expect, and I think there's gonna be some weirdness, maybe some horror leaning stuff with the beats, but I feel like it's mostly going to be focused on the character. Another thing that I don't really relate to with Elise is that, like I said, she has a boyfriend who's there with her. They've been together for 5 years, and she is like developing a crush and kind of flirting with another girl that is there working at the beet harvest. And I think, like, it's unclear, but I don't believe she's ever been with a woman before, so I'm sure these are kind of new and exciting feelings, but I don't know, that's a little bit weird to me, like admitting that you have a crush on somebody while you're also there with your long-term partner and you're like calling this person hot. So I get why like somebody might find the character insufferable, but at the same time I find her very relatable, and I don't know, just like real. Like I like when people are real, even if they're not making the best decisions and having the greatest thoughts. Like I just enjoy that, and I find that that's a lot easier to connect to than somebody who's going to be making perfect choices the entire way. That's all I have to say so far. Not much has really happened plot-wise other than that, but I am really, really liking it, and I can't wait to continue reading it. So I'm gonna put my bonnet on and keep reading, and then we'll see how far I get tonight. Hi, I have a couple of updates. My boyfriend was visiting friends, so he had the camera, and I was not able to film anything, but I did finish Beta Vulgaris. This was a 4.5 star. I really, really loved this. I would say though, to put it in a category, I would not classify this as horror at all. To me, it was really just like one of those weird girl lit fic books. Like it's definitely literary fiction with just a slight little bit of weirdness happening. Really, what it's about is Elise falling into this deep depression, and she is really trying to make sense of the world around her, but she is not always clear what is real and what is not real at times. And that also translates to the reader as well. You don't know if what she's seeing is actually reality, and I found that to be really, really interesting. I think this could definitely be a hard read for some people though, because it is a little exhausting being in her head. Like I said, she is just falling into this deep depression. She has very, very low self-esteem, pretty much no self-confidence, is really just convinced that everyone around her hates her and that she's horrible and she's fat and she's ugly. Then, you know, we got all of this financial issues that are plaguing her and stressing her out and adding a lot of anxiety to her life. And then while they're working at this beet harvest, the kind of weirdness that's happening is that people are kind of one by one disappearing from the beet harvest, which is not completely strange because, you know, these are a lot of people that travel a lot and are very adventurous, and it's, you know, very common for them to move around. So it's kind of like, okay, you know, the job is supposed to be for a month, but they stay for a week and then they leave, which is not completely out of character because that's kind of the type of people that these are. However, it is strange that they are just kind of like leaving without saying goodbye to anybody, because I mean, they don't know each other that well, but there is, like, they're acquaintances and they work together, they are staying on the same campground, so it is a little strange that they're just kind of disappearing into thin air. So all of that is happening while Elise is also grappling with her own like mental health issues, and like I said, I just found her to be very, very relatable, very, very real, and I really liked the way this was written. I might be incorrect in saying so, but I do believe this is the author's debut, and if so, that's kind of like blowing my mind because I really, really love this. But again, I would not say this is horror. After that, as you guys saw, I did move on to Narcissus, which is the last book that I have picked out for Summerween. This is by Adam Godfrey, and I'm about halfway through it. It is a novella. It's only 90 pages, so I've been going through it pretty quickly. However, I will say that the writing is a lot more like, I don't know if dense is the correct word, but it's a lot more descriptive than I thought that it would be. To give you kind of an example of what it reads like, this is the first sentence of chapter 2. It says, "Beyond the limestone mouth, the darkness opens wide and holds them in its presence like a midnight womb. Bottomless and quiet, insulated from the outer world in not the geographic sense alone, but also time." There are a lot of times where I'm like having to reread things because I'm like, there's a lot of metaphors I feel like, and I have to really like go back and think about what the author's actually trying to say because it's not like simple writing. Does that make sense? Like, it's not straightforward telling you like what's happening. It's kind of abstract at some points. I'm gonna put up the cover of this so that we can appreciate the pink for Summerween. But this is about 4 friends who are traveling in Greece, and a local there tells them about this like cave that is kind of like forbidden to go into. It's kind of like protected land, but he's like, if you guys are looking for an authentic experience that the tourists like don't know about, you should go here. There's a lot of history to it, and it's kind of like an old cave. They go in there and they find like a pool of water that perfectly shows their reflections. However, when they look in it, they see their reflections moving and they themselves are not moving or like smiling and things like that. And then after they leave the cave, now, where I am at the halfway point, 2 of them are already dead and they are getting killed by their reflection. So I guess in order to avoid being killed, they have to avoid their reflection, but I don't think they really know that yet. The 2 that are remaining, they know something weird is happening, and they know, or they believe that it is connected to what happened to them in the cave, because they all kind of got a weird feeling about it, but they don't know for sure. I don't really have a lot to say about this. I honestly don't think I'm really that interested in it, but I did pay $4 on Kindle for this, for 90 pages of an ebook. That's a whole different topic. Like, the price of ebooks and audiobooks is just absolutely ridiculous. That is why I'm going to continue reading it, even though I'm not like the most into it, but we'll see where it goes from here. I just feel like it got straight into the story, and things are progressing very, very quickly. I don't know how I feel about the writing though. That's all I have to say for now. I will give you guys my final update on that one once I finish it. Hello friends, we have reached the end of Summerween, and I am here to give you my final update on Narcissus. This, I think I'm gonna give 3 stars, maybe even like 2.5 stars. I don't know how I feel. I think that it was an interesting concept that is inspired by Greek mythology, and I liked learning about that, and I can always, you know, commend people for having original ideas, especially in horror. I like when there's something unique, but being a novella and following 4 different people, like, we don't really get time to get to know the characters or really even care about them. So I was just reading the book, but I was not invested. There was no stakes for me as a reader because I didn't know the characters, so I didn't care what was going to happen to them. I just kind of assumed from the beginning that they're all going to die, and I don't really care because I didn't get attached. I also don't think that the writing really worked for me. I know I read you that little snippet and I talked about it before, but I feel like, I don't know, it was really hard to picture things at times. Like, some of the death scenes that happened were very hard for me to picture and like map out in my brain, and again, I had to go and reread things multiple times to understand what was actually happening. And overall, I don't know, it was just okay. I'm a little sad that I like spent money on it, but whatever. I wish I had more to say about this final book, but being 90 pages, and again, like, I don't know, it was just kind of exactly what you would expect it to be, so I can't really say too much more about it, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but I do feel like Summerween this year was kind of a flop for me. I had 2 3 stars, 2 DNFs. We did at least get 1 good book. I got that 1 4.5 star read that, you know, I'm still going to be thinking about for a while and can highly recommend to just about anyone, but overall it didn't go that well, and I'm a little sad about that. Let me know down below if you participated in Summerween this year, and if you did, what was your favorite read? With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time.